I always start with my mask on because I want to remind people how important it is to wear that mask, to social distance, to sanitize your hands, and to use every opportunity that you have to protect yourselves. Even though we have the COVID vaccine, there is some. Yep, there we go, Leslie. There is some breakthrough. I often see one of the reasons that people don't get the vaccine. They say, "Well, you still can get COVID even if you've been vaccinated," and that's true. The same thing is true about polio or smallpox or measles, mumps, and chickenpox, all those kinds of diseases. But here's the difference. Right now, we're running at about a 10% infection rate in Daviess County. Over 10,000 Daviess Countyans have been tested positive for COVID. We have vaccinated a little over 27,000 folks in Daviess County, and the breakthrough meaning folks who were vaccinated but still got the disease, is 0.0007. That means 0.7/10,000% of the people who got the vaccine actually came down with COVID, as opposed to 10% of the people who have not had the vaccine. And we are still adding to those numbers. So it's extremely important that you take the opportunity to get the vaccine. Nobody's going to force you to do it. And there's a lot of information out on Facebook, a lot of wild theories that are being spread everywhere. But if you have a question, I urge you not to go to Facebook. I urge you to go to your own healthcare provider. Talk to your doctor and ask him or her what they think, and then just be guided by that. I would much rather do that than end up having a vet, and no offense at vets, we just hired one, by the way, for the county, but have a vet tell me how to wire my house. They have no clue. So go to your own healthcare physician and talk to them. Do some research yourself. Here in Daviess County, that 0.7/10,000% breakthrough is pretty darn good. It's even better than what the test results were for Moderna and for Pfizer. So, Jordan, won't you bring up the map? Well, we'll start with that. Today, we had 17 new cases in Daviess County. We're running a little high. Our average has jumped from about 9.4 a couple weeks ago to a little over 16. I think the map will show us. On the left of this slide, you'll see if you were, well, he got away from me. That's all right. Yeah, there we go. Eligible for a vaccine. You can find a provider and just go to vaccinefinder.org or vaccine.ky.gov. They'll give you a list of all the places that you can get a vaccine. Need a ride? If you don't have transportation, if you will call GRITS, that's the Green River Transportation organization that's run by Audubon area. If you'll call them 24 hours before your appointment, they will make sure that you get to your appointment, you get home from your appointment. Give me the next slide, Jordan. So this slide shows the entire state of Kentucky. If you look down at the bottom, it says the overall current incidence rate in Kentucky is 12.15. That had gotten below 10 at one time. If you look at Daviess County right now, our incident rate is, I think it's 16. It's a little small to read, but it is 16 cases, which means that we have a higher incident rate per 100,000 in Daviess County than the state has. You will notice a few more reds have popped up, a whole lot more yellow counties have gone into the orange. We do see a few green counties. Most of the green counties are very small counties, very small population. But it doesn't take, we're fortunate in that we roughly have 100,000 folks in Daviess County. That means whatever the rate is reported for that day is the rate per 100,000. An example in Henderson, if they were reporting 10 cases, their rate would actually be 25 cases per 100,000 because our population is about 2.5 times Henderson. Some of the smaller counties like Hancock County, the fact that they're showing an incident rate of 18 doesn't mean that they have an average of 18 cases that day, actual cases. What it says is they may have had 2 cases, but when you adjust it for 100,000 population, you multiply that number by 9. So anyway, that's enough. We have had no new deaths in Daviess County for quite some time. This is a picture again of the total people vaccinated in Daviess County, 27,159. Total percent of the population is 26.8, but that's not what we want to look at, because the population equal to or greater than 18 years of age, those are the ones who are getting the vaccine. Yeah, it's 35% of our population. The population that's been vaccinated who are greater, 65 years old or greater, is almost 66%. When you look at Daviess County and compare Daviess County to the rest of the Commonwealth, we're doing very well. One last thing before I get into my interview with Leslie, I saw on Facebook, and one of the places occasionally I go, where somebody said that Vandenberg County was doing better than Daviess County. They have 4 more people than Daviess County has, and they had many fewer cases. That is not correct. The only thing correct about that is Vandenberg County has more people than Daviess County. When you look at the cases per 100,000 population, Daviess County has fewer deaths than Daviess County. I know sometimes people don't like to admit that we're doing a good job, but I think we are doing an excellent job here in this county trying to hold the pandemic under control. So with that, today it's my pleasure to introduce the county clerk. And lots of times I get the county clerk mixed up with the county circuit court clerk, but this is the county clerk, Leslie McCarty. Leslie was elected in the last election, isn't that right, Leslie? Tell us a little bit about your background and you know, what did that background do to help prepare you to become the clerk of Daviess County?
Well, thank you, Judge, for having me on. I really appreciate you taking the time and to interview me, to let me talk about my office. I was elected in 2018 as the county clerk, and my background is actually in libraries and library science. I was at the Daviess County Public Library for 15 years before I was elected, and I wanted to run for this office because it does have a component I'm very familiar with, which is preservation of records. And I do like politics. I have an uncle, my mother's brother was a state representative for 18 years, was on the county board of elections for Jefferson County, and then was the mayor of Douglas Hills in Louisville, which is a little suburb of Jefferson County. So it kind of runs in the blood.
Okay, so tell me what exactly is the responsibility of a county clerk?
Well, we actually wear many hats. We collect delinquent taxes. We collect taxes also for cars. We do elections. We put those on, and we record legal documents. So we are the caretakers of documents.
Okay, and you know, I'm going to ask you the question. I know you know the reason. Why is that so important?
It is important to know where we come from. You don't know where you are currently unless you know where you came from. So it's very important for researchers, for genealogists to have that type of information, especially if you're going to purchase land, purchase a home, purchase a vehicle. You kind of need to know that history.
Okay. So, and just as an example, I ended my military service in 1972. The first thing I did when I got home was I took my DD 214, brought it to the clerk's office, and I filed it away. Never thought that I would need it again.
Sure.
But it turned out that I did need a copy of it. I didn't have my copy at home. You lose those things. But I was able to come to the clerk's office, and you guys were able to provide me with a copy of that document. So what are some of the other things? Do people record wills?
They record wills here, marriages, mortgages, deeds. I can't really think of the others right off the top of my head, but we record a variety of documents. So if you're wanting a copy of your DD 214, we do have that here, and those are only for veterans. So if you're doing just that,
Well, let me ask you a
ask
question.
for it.
Do I have to come down and go through all those records, or can I call somebody at the clerk's office and say, hey, I'm trying to find, and I know about what year it was. Can you help me?
Oh, we would absolutely be glad to help you at 270-685-8434. You select option 3 for recording, and you can definitely ask them a question. You could also email us. We also do check our Facebook every day for messages. Going back to your question about what else we do, we have a passport office here. So you are able to come and get your passport, and you do have to have several items with you. So say you're a minor, and if you're wanting to get a passport and you're 15 years or younger, both of your parents have to be present. If you're 16 to 17, you have to just have one parent with you. You have to have a certified copy of your birth certificate issued from the Vital Records Office. A hospital birth certificate or a census issued certificate will not be accepted. You have to have a valid photo identification, like a driver's license or a state issued ID card. If it's an out-of-state ID, you'll have to provide a second form of ID. And there will also be asked for 2 separate payments, because those will be collected. One is to the U.S. Department of State, and that fee has to be paid with a check or money order only. And then the second check is to the Daviess County Clerk's office. Well, and actually that fee can be paid with cash, check, money order, credit, or debit card.
You know, it was very interesting. So I come in and I license my car. Can I get my driver's license there at the same time?
No, sir, you cannot. That is actually under the jurisdiction of the Daviess County Circuit Court clerk, and you have to make an appointment with them.
And actually now that's about to be changed. I think by July 1 of 2022, all driver's licenses, standard plus the real ID driver's licenses, will be issued out at the Daviess County Operations Center, and it has been placed under the purview of KYTC, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. So I know when I first was elected judge executive, one of the things that always bothered folks was that when they went to renew their driver's license, they had to do it at the Judicial Center. That meant that they had to pass through security, and they felt like they were being treated like criminals, and they thought that it should be over here. I know on occasion we tried to get that moved here, couldn't get it moved into the courthouse, but we did expand the Judicial Center somewhat so that you didn't have to go through security. So anything else that you guys record down there? Tell me something that would be interesting. Every now and then I get a copy of a will, and I've got to prove that the signature is correct, and it's usually I've got to prove that it's your signature that's correct. What's going on there? Did those people die without any relatives or nobody to take care of them?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. Hold on just a moment, Judge.
Well, don't worry about it.
Well, I have my chief deputy in here, Richard House, just to help me make sure I answer all my questions correctly. I'm not so sure about wills. I do know about marriage licenses. We do record those. So Judge, if you have lost your marriage license when you and Judy were married, we can find that for you.
I should be so fortunate.
You should be.
You know, I just knew that Richard was going to photobomb this interview. So while we've got Richard there, who's the chief elections officer, let's talk a little bit about the last election and how that went and what went on. So let's talk about it. You know, and I'll just set it up for you. A lot of counties and a lot of states had election issues, Leslie. I'm very proud of Daviess County, and I'm very proud of your office and your folks. We saw very little, if any, of that. we had an election that ran very smoothly. And I am pleased to say that, and you can talk about this in a bit, that our General Assembly saw fit to put some bipartisan changes on how elections are going to be run going forward. So talk about this last election and all the things that went on, and I remember you guys were running around like you had your heads cut off, and we were trying to help you solve some location issues. Just tell us about how last year's election was different than other general elections.
Well, as being a new clerk, this has definitely been a whirlwind experience for me. I started off in 2019 with the recount. Thank you, DJ Johnson. And then and then I have this wonderful, terrible pandemic. So to try to vote safely was definitely a prominent issue in the forefront. So I honestly believe that putting on elections, facilitating elections and voting should not be a partisan issue. Everybody, it says in our Constitution, who is 18 and over has the right to vote. So to be able to accommodate social distancing for the pandemic, to make sure everybody is safe, no one's getting sick, it was quite a challenge. So instead of having your precincts, we had voting centers, and we had 6 of those in Daviess County. And we expanded absentee voting, which you could get a ballot through the portal, which was developed by the Kentucky State Board of Elections. So
we did mass mail ballots out like some states.
No, you have to apply for a ballot. You have to go online to the portal and request your ballot. And that goes through a process, and that comes back, and that goes through a heavy process of double checking signatures. We also had drop-off boxes. We try to make this as easy as possible. We also had 3 weeks of early voting, and that was like Groundhog's Day, Judge. I'm not going to lie. It was an election every day.
I know.
So House Bill 574 that was recently passed has kind of taken the good things about last year's election and have kind of tweaked them. So instead of 3 weeks of early voting, we only have 3 days of early voting. We still have the drop-off boxes, and we will still be able to have voting centers. So it's just really figuring out a plan with our County Board of Elections to decide how to facilitate this election coming up next year.
So do we have what I would call no fault early voting? By that, I mean, used to you had to be sick, out of the country, or there be some reason. Do we still have to have that reason, or can you just vote early if you so choose?
That's that 3 days of early voting. You do not have to have an excuse to early vote. Now, if you want an absentee ballot, if you want that instead of coming to early vote, you do have to have an excuse. Last year in 2020, everybody was under the pandemic. That was the excuse. So that made it very safe to do. But of course, we processed over 15,000 ballots, which have never been done before. Usually in a presidential election, it was maybe 2,000 ballots at the most. 15,000 ballots was unheard of. And bourbon became my best friend on most nights.
Were there, and as you do when there's nobody there to help and you're voting absentee, and even though the instructions are pretty clear to folks like you and Richard, the average everyday person may confuse a statement. If they messed up their ballot, did they have an opportunity to correct that ballot?
Yes, they did. What they can do is called spoiling your ballot. Mm-hmm. So they would take it to one of the poll workers, and they would go to where they would check in to get their ballot. They would say, I would like to spoil my ballot. That poll worker, which would be a clerk, would go through that process on our keyboards, our tablets that they use, the electronic poll book. They would spoil it and issue them another ballot.
Okay, so we try to make sure that the voter is accommodated in every way that we can, because I agree with you. Everybody has the right to vote. According to the Constitution, they shouldn't be denied for any reason. Now, ever since I've been judge executive and prior to that, I've been an advocate for voting centers. It seems that we're having a harder and harder time finding poll workers and the various party representatives, and you can eliminate a lot of that with voting centers. What's your opinion of the sports center as an example? It's a huge voting center. I went over there. My opinion was everything just went very smooth. I heard no complaints from anybody. What do you think about them?
I totally agree with you. It was very smooth. You were able to get in and out quickly. Everything was organized very well. And for me, I have my staff centrally located. As you probably know, Judge, and maybe other people don't know, we have 58 precincts. So during a normal election, we have almost 58 locations that we have to check on. With polling centers or voting centers, my staff is in central locations. If there's a problem, it's easy to fix. And so that creates such a smooth and accommodating atmosphere. And the places that we selected last year, like the sports center, are big. They're easily accessible for handicap, and you can space out, and it's wonderful.
Plenty of parking as well. Sometimes that becomes an issue. I know in the past at my polling place, if you got there early and wanted to vote before you went to work, sometimes you had to park quite a ways away to get there. And then if it's pouring down rain, you don't want to. It's so I think that early voting, absentee voting, and the precinct, the central precincts are gonna really help. I hope it will help what has been a declining percentage of our people voting. Voter ID. Do I have to have an ID to vote?
Yes, you do. That is required by law in the state of Kentucky, that you have to have an ID to vote. And actually, they just changed that law. Was it this year? Well, last year. They changed that law in 2020. So you can have a state issued ID or a driver's license, a military ID, and your passport.
Okay. So I'm not gonna, in the past, I think years in the past, I knew the poll workers, and I always handled my driver's license. But yeah, that's Al Mattingly, and they find me on the book and check me off. Now you absolutely, it's not an option. You have to have that voter ID, some form of it.
Well, they definitely prefer you to have that ID. If a poll worker knows you, they can still vouch for you. However, they have to sign an affidavit saying that you are who you say you are. Mm-hmm. And so there is a thing called secondary IDs, I guess you could call it, where it's like you have your credit card, a bill with your address on it, and I think your SNAP or EBT card can also be used. But okay. Yes, you have to sign an affidavit if you do not have your picture ID with you, and there are only 4 or 5 picture IDs that they will accept.
Leslie, with the opening of offices opening up more so, and people getting vaccinated, and they seem to be out more. One of the things I've noticed when I come into the courthouse in the mornings and when I leave in the afternoons or come back from lunch is the long lines down your end of the hall. And I assume those are people who are registering cars and doing that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
Is there an alternative way for them to do that?
Yes, sir. If you don't want to stand in line, and in particular, the last 2 to 3 months have been very busy with fleets and people getting their stimulus money and or their tax money, so they are out buying cars. You can do your renewals online at drive.ky.gov. You can also call our office at 270-685-8434, and it is extension 2. So you can do it over the phone, or you can do it by mail. You can actually mail in your license, your insurance card, your renewal notice, and have your check made out to the Daviess County Clerk, and with a phone number if there are any questions. We also have a drop box too. So if you come in and you see the line, but you have all your information ready, there is a drop box right across the hall from Automobile. You can slide that in there and we will be glad to process for you. And then all your things that you will need will come back in the mail to you.
So tell me this, what would people need if they're going to renew their license, their tags for their car? Are there specific things that they have to bring with them?
They definitely have to bring their state issued ID or their driver's license. They also need their insurance card. If they have their notice, that would be great. But if they don't, they at least need to know a VIN number or the license plate number to their vehicle.
Okay.
And then of
So
course have their payment ready.
now, is there a different scenario or different process if a car is purchased out of the state and brought in the state to be registered versus one that is bought in state?
They have to get that car inspected by the sheriff's department. And I think that fee is $5. So they will go to the sheriff's department first and get that inspected. And once that is signed off on, then they can come down the hall to our office and have that
Okay.
process.
Isn't there another issue, and I can't remember it, but I know we bought one years ago and I had to have a notarized statement from the vendor who was in out of state that I had to have along with everything else to license it.
I want to say that is probably a notarization. Oh, it's a Kentucky application for title, and you have to have that notarized.
Yes, yeah.
And you can do that here, but a lot of those forms actually are found on drive.ky.gov. And there are several tabs on there which specify what kind of service do you need: driver services, motor vehicle services, etc. And that will get you a lot where you need to go. And that Kentucky application for title also locks in your purchase price of your vehicle, so we know what tax you want.
Okay. A couple weeks ago, I was out of town, but my good friend Ryan Quarles, the agricultural commissioner, came in promoting an ag tag. Tell us about the ag tag. Why would somebody want that?
Oh, ag tag is wonderful. It is the agricultural tag program that they do. So every time a farmer renews his agricultural tags on his farm plates, it's $10, and that $10, well, it's more than that, but he pays a $10 donation, and that $10 donation goes to 4-H, Kentucky Proud, and Future Farmers of America. So that money gets to those programs, and then the rest of that comes back to Daviess County. And I want to say it's been close to, across the state, 300,000 students, well, something close to that, participate in those kinds of programs. Yes, 274,000 students are enrolled in these programs across the state. So it's very important to me that AgTag is successful. We want those students to participate in that because they learn such amazing leadership skills that we need for future farmers. Well,
this August, Judy and I will be married 50 years. I don't know if I'm bragging about being married that long or just the fact that I have survived that long. So it's been a long time since I came in and applied for a marriage license. So what does a young couple or an old couple need to bring with them if they're going to apply for a marriage license?
Well, they have to apply for it in person. You wouldn't think that, but you do. You have to be at least 18 or older. Now, I think you might qualify at least on that part. You are over 18, correct?
Be careful. Be careful.
There's also no waiting period, no blood test or physical requirements, and your marriage license is valid for 30 days, including the date that it was issued. The marriage license is valid anywhere in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And when you are present, you have to have an acceptable form of ID, such as a driver's license or government issued ID, original birth certificate, passport, or social security card. And it's $50, and you can pay cash or by card. Of course, there's vendor fee with your card. If you are under 18, if either party is 17 years of age or younger, no license shall be issued. So you cannot get married underage. If either party is 17 years of age, it won't be issued unless the party who is 17 years of age must be present to the clerk's office with a certified copy of a court order by a family court or district court judge that grants the party permission to marry and removes the party's disability of minority. And the applicant must wait at least 15 days since the order before appearing in the clerk's office to get a marriage license.
I think what I remember is back 50 years ago, Judy and I had to have a blood test. We had to
Right,
submit a blood test along with our application. So that's changed now. That no longer is required.
right.
Uh, things have been changing really fast with elections, with record keeping.
Yes.
And I know that you guys have been researching. If anybody ever came to our courthouse and went down into the basement, they would see the piles and piles, and they're not in piles, folks, but the files and files of records. And we have been looking, and you have been meeting with people looking at taking bids on a new record keeping system. Talk to
Yeah.
us a little bit.
Oh, I am so excited about that. So one of the things I wanted to do when I came into office is look at our records room and see how it's laid out and how, in my mind, I think it could be better, more efficient and better. So we are working with vendors to remodel the basement to make the records more accessible and to actually have more space, because right now we're running out of space, and for the future we will need to remodel, because hopefully by the time you and I are long gone, we'll still have room to store our records, since that's our official job.
Are they still paper records, or do we do microfilm,
We do
or
both.
do both?
We do both, but a lot of ours are paper records, and we just want to have a really nice area for people to do their research. We have a lot of customers that are title searchers, lawyers, but we do have some genealogists that come to do research, and I want it to be user friendly, not just for the people that use it every day, but for everyone.
But just to be clear, you and your staff do not go down and research items for people.
We do not, but you can always call and request a document that you might need. We might refer you to a genealogist or to the public library, because they have a great Kentucky room that'll do research. I like doing research. I will be glad to help if I can, but I do have other duties as well.
So last thing I want to talk about is, we talked about it at the beginning of this session, and I want to talk about it here at the end. You and I just came out of a meeting with a vendor for voting machines, voting systems. I know that, I think it was last week or the week before last, we had another vendor in here. Daviess County Fiscal Court and the clerk's office are looking at revamping our voting machines. I just, and I'll say this personally, watching these demonstrations really gives me great confidence in the integrity of the voting system that we provide the folks here. Worst thing in the world, I know one of the commissioners was in there and he was talking about that the one worst thing in the world is for somebody to get the thought that their vote isn't being counted or their vote is being altered. And I don't know about you, but after watching both of these demonstrations, I absolutely don't see how that could happen. Particularly, and one of the things I want folks to understand, these machines are not hooked at all to the web. They're not hooked to the internet. They're not hooked to anything.
No, I mean, the number one priority for me when it comes to elections is election integrity. I would hate for the people of Daviess County to not trust their clerk because something happened with an election. That would be very devastating. So, and it's also with Kentucky law too, that you have to have paper ballots.
Right. So, well, Leslie, I want to thank you and that photo bombing Richard House in the background for joining us today and explaining some, a little bit to the folks. Most folks interface with the clerk's office in some capacity, one way or the other, but they don't really realize that that's the office that they're dealing with, that the clerk is a constitutional officer elected from Daviess County citizens to serve Daviess County citizens, and you and your staff do it very well. So thank you.